Hello. Good start. I started with the wrong one. There we go. Hi, welcome. I'm joined today with Tien, who has back-to-back top 5K finishes. Is that right, Tien?
Yes, Rob. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's lovely to be here.
2 top 25K finishes. Both of these guys are my teammates, and we've got Lozz as well. Lozz, you were just over 7,000 overall rank last year, right?
Yeah, about 7,500. But if we can improve on that, it'll be a massive year this year.
Yeah, both my teammates in the Strikers, Keepers, Losers, Weepers tournament that kicks off in game week 2, which I'm really looking forward to. So just a quick rundown on what we're going to do today. We're going to share our drafts and ideas, where I'm going to be looking at playing the bench boost in game week 1 and wildcard in game week 2. And then we'll be looking at Tien and Lozz's draft as well. And there's also a Salah-less draft that Lozz has sent in that I like. And I want to talk about formations when we pop that on as well, because I think there's a stigma with certain formations about people thinking, you know, you, for example, don't play 5 at the back. It's not very flexible. Something which we can discuss later. We'll look at the opening fixtures of the game week and predictions and ideas, maybe players or score lines that we think will occur. And then potential teams I want to target. Maybe we can suggest each 3 strong teams and 3 weak teams, judged on pre-seasons, maybe their signings or how they finished last season. And then maybe just go through some teams and maybe pick out one player to pick, one to avoid if we've got time. And then any questions from the chat. Any dilemmas people have got, because today is the day it kicks off. So excited. I've had even more time to tinker because I'm on summer vacation from school. I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll start with the guests first. I think that's the best way. So I think, Tien, your team is gonna come up first. Yes. Can you walk us through your team? So just go through the team and then just give me your thoughts about this.
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, you can see that it's a 4-4-2 setup. So Sanchez in goal, Robertson, Cancelo, TAA, and Perisic in the back 4 as it stands. Salah captain, Mount, Bailey, Martinelli. And up front we've got Haaland and Jesus. So on the bench, got the pretty cheap bench. So bought from Leicester, Pereira, Williams, and Greenwood. Yeah, so basically, you know, pretty template team, to be honest. I do like the 4-4-2 formation, just because I think it's a bit more flexible. Pretty big at the back, and yeah, have the 8.0 million midfielder there as well in Mount. So hopefully he can do the business. And I do have Haaland instead of Kane for game week 1, because I don't believe in booking a transfer for game week 2, and I do like Haaland for game week 2. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I think at the moment there's a couple of places I'm still not 100% sure yet. Not sure whether Perisic would actually start or not in game week 1. So that's something that I have to think about for the next couple of hours. But other than that, I think I'm pretty set on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go to Lozz first. I'm usually maybe are you going to be good cop bad cop in this situation? We'll see. Whichever you are, I'll be the opposite.
No, I like it. It's it is quite template, but there's nothing wrong with that early on in the season when we're still trying to figure out what's going on with teams, who's the teams to target, which we'll touch on later. But my man Harry Kane, that's I just don't know about the Spurs coverage for Southampton. That's just the boys are all dressed up for him, and his absence is giving me a little bit of doubt for your team there, because he has looked absolutely sharp in pre-season.
Did you see the picture of? So one of the reasons why people thought Perisic might be playing, there was a training photo from Spurs. Was it today or yesterday? So timelines for people watching, we're, you know, they're in Australia, I'm in Taiwan, so we're on this side of the planet. So sometimes time. So I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but they were in bibs, and I think it was Eric Dyer, Matt Doherty, Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, Perisic. So people thinking, well, they're wearing the same bib, maybe they're going to be starting. But in that photo, they all look ripped. Like people were saying about the Conte preseason, but you look at Doherty, you look at Dyer, he's like, you know, flexing his muscles, and you're looking at Harry Kane, like they are looking really prime.
Yeah, the issue with that photo was Harvey White was in it as well, the young sort of academy kid. So that kind of put a pin in the hopes that Perisic may start for me. But yeah, they all look really good. And one thing that although preseason results are a little bit shaky to go off, if you factor in that massive preseason on top and the high intensity of all the sessions leading up to those games, usually sometimes a day and a half before, I think with a proper bit of time and periodization in the lead up to this game, I think they'll be fit, ready to go. I hope.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. Like, there's no Spur attack coverage. It's definitely giving me a big FOMO here. It's Kane versus Holland. It's just constantly switching back and forth between the two, and I don't know. Who knows? I might switch back.
Is it because you don't want to book in the transfer?
That is the key there for me. I think, because obviously inevitably you're probably going to make some mistakes with your game week 1 draft, and you don't really want to book a transfer in case you've got other issues in your team to sort out. So
any wildfire can appear at any time, especially after the first week, and get an idea of the sort of lineups initially to begin with could be key. But yeah, having that transfer saved, even for the potential to roll it, will put you in a lot of good stead for sure. And City's fixtures, I understand completely. I just can't overlook my man, but we'll get to that on my team.
Yeah, I was thinking, people say bias, like template sometimes feels like a dirty word online, but you just look at the team that you've got, and yeah, I would say it is very template. The Ward situation coming out at Leicester, with Leicester Iverson, no other keeper, so 8 million, you've definitely basically got a goalkeeper, and with the rotation with Sanchez, the Brighton Leicester rotation is excellent. So people say template, but it's template for a reason. A lot of the time you've got the 3 best defenders in the game. Perisic is, if he plays, has got very promising stats. Martinelli is your 6 million man, who I think is the best in that price range. Bailey has had a fantastic preseason, 5 million as well. Just it is, and the bench is like the most template right now, right? Ward, Andreas, Nico Williams, and Greenwood are like, it's almost everyone's bench, but it's for a reason. And yeah, just starting the season, this is just a solid squad. If there was a starter squad to recommend anyone, like, it would be similar to this. Like, are you not worried about there not really being any? I'm not saying you have to risk, because people say you can't win FPL in game week 1, but you can lose it. So did any ownership percentages or anything sway you? So for example, Gabriel Jesus is like, what? He's over 70% owned now, right? He's got Crystal Palace in the first game week, which they have the 5th best expected goals conceded stats. They're the 5th best defense in the Premier League last year. And his ownership is so high. Like, have any of these players made it into your side to maybe do a bit of coverage and then break away later on? Or is this just the players you believe get the most points until you basically wildcard or make some transfers?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of both. I mean, if you look at these players here, like, is there anyone that you think that that like you look at them and say, well, that's a shit player. Like, why do you have him? Why do you have them in your team? And that is probably when you start to think, wow, if someone you don't believe in, that you don't believe that is a good player, or at least for the for the fixtures that you're looking at, but you own that player just because of their high ownership, then that might be a problem. But like with Jesus, for example, when he was priced at 8 million, which is too cheap, and then he moved, moved to Arsenal, where you would think that he would play game in, game out, and it's just too good to be true. And I think it is, because pre-season you can see what he can do, and he's already done the business for Arsenal, and leading the front line. And so I just think that regardless of the ownership, it's just a no-brainer pick.
Yeah, we've
And
talked about
Sam,
before
yeah.
on Twitter about effective ownership. And Fabio Borges himself has said that he only does effective ownership when it's like a 50-50 call, and if he wants to be safe, he'll go with the higher owned player just to give himself some safety. But in other ways, but I think you bang right. And Lozz, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but someone like Jesus, maybe Trent at 7.5, but Jesus is definitely top 3 most best priced, cheapest priced, underpriced players in the game.
Yeah, you had a feeling that FPL just really wanted to wait to release his price until he got that Arsenal move, but just so happened to occur before, sort of after. And it's just, even as a Spurs fan, I hate having Arsenal players as a conflict of interest in there, but there's a reason that he's at 75%, because it just opens up avenues to have big at the back, 2 solid premiums on top of who he is pretty much considered a premium now. It was because of his ownership as well. It's just too dangerous to go against him, because if he hauls, it can be a massive rank drop for someone that is likely to get a few goals this year. Yeah,
well, we'll see when I come to my team, but it's a different situation, so it'll be fine. But it's any final comments? Again, this is pretty much, apart from I would have Kane over Haaland, and I probably wouldn't be going with Mount because he didn't have the best preseason, and I think there's still some issues there. But the other 13 players that is here, I would probably be. This would have been very, very close to my team, incredibly close.
Had you had a look at any other 5 million price midfielders?
Yes, I have one on my team, so I'm bench boosting. But yeah,
I think that's an interesting spot, that with these such template teams that are around, is a point of difference that maybe you can look for a little bit more upside without as much risk.
But that's it. If the template has, say, 7 strong players in that template, you just have to hope that you get the right calls with the remaining slots in your team, right? So yeah, get Trent and Salah and Haaland and Jesus and that, and then hope that your other final three players in the team is what sets you ahead of others. So we'll move on to Lozz. I think this is I can't criticize it. It's template, but in a good way. I don't think we can disagree with that. So here we go. 5 at the back. Lozz, can you just go through your team and then defend that 5 at the back, which I've had to do for years and years and years about defending 5 at the back formations. It's your turn today. I'm having a break.
As we sort of already touched on, the Sanchez Ward pendulum of goalkeepers is just too good to pass up at the moment for me. I know there's some value in around the 5.5 goalkeeper mark, but I just don't see that great upside when you can sort of spread those a little bit further elsewhere. Usual threats at the back, obviously wing back central and bombing on fullback. So we got Trent, Cancelo, Perisic, Trippier, who I like as a pick against Nottingham, and Reece James as well. So I mean, at the prices they are, if you put them in midfield, they'd still be in consideration for some teams as well. So the clean sheet points, that's why I'm big back there. Then obviously got Salah as captain there, Martinelli and Bailey, pretty standard, and then Jesus and Kane, the Christmas tree. I'm open to thoughts, lads.
Yeah, Tien, you go first.
I mean, similarly to my team, you can't complain too much with, most of these picks, really. Yeah, I do actually quite like Trippier, because he was in my team or some of my drafts early on as well. And I think, some people in the chat have, already start talking about the Perisic doubt, which I'm fully aware. I saw that Planet FPL tweet, and I think that Paul O'Keefe tweeting the predicted lineup. So yeah, that's certainly something to think about, and that potentially I might just downgrade Perisic down to Trippier and either bang that 0.5 million, just leave that in the bank for for a rainy day, or I might upgrade my goalkeeper from Sanchez to like Ramsdale or something. But yeah, but certainly so Trippier is a very solid pick, and I think your back five there, it's just super solid. Yeah, so it's pretty much just Kane versus Haaland, right? And then we've already talked about. I don't think anyone can convince you otherwise today, Lozz. I'm sure about that.
There is one big elephant on the bench there, and that's Julian Alvarez, who I'm still tossing and turning as to whether to include him or not. It is a wait and see for me at the moment, but I'm very intrigued at that price point into a City attacker, and I'd like to be there early if possible. And at the 6.5 price with the enabling midfielders of Martinelli and Bailey, I think it gives me a chance to get there early if I don't want to go up to an $8 million midfielder in there. And Dewsbury Hall and Andreas from Fulham, I think they'll both be featuring heavily for their side, so it gives me good cover on the bench in the occasion I get blindsided by an absence.
Yeah, no, so I think he did look pretty good when he came on the other day, right, against Liverpool, and
got himself a goal even in a little bit of time.
If he does get some minutes, I think it will definitely, great shout. But obviously, Pep, if you're willing to play that Pep roulette, then why not? Why not? At the moment, I'm just fit.
You go, mate.
No, I'm just saying that at the moment it just seems like with so much value elsewhere, having a 6.5 million forward that may or may not play sitting on your bench seems a little bit of a luxury in my mind. That's all, because like for me, for example, I pretty much use every cent or every penny in my budget to put in the starting 11. Yeah, so that's probably just the only thing that I'm a little bit hesitant about, leaving that much money on the bench. But and I'm certainly seeing your point, like if he comes on and score another goal, against West Ham, then everyone will probably try to get him for Bournemouth, and you're already there banking the price rises. So who knows?
Yeah, I think that's definitely not a player I've seen in drafts. Is he 6.5?
6.5.
Yeah. So, but you're right. He looked lively when he came on in the Community Shield. People say he's the exact type of player that Pep loves, with that midfield heart, but being an attacking player. And again, I've always been a big fan of five at the back. Just best value, best amount of points. One argument I've seen someone post, and I can't remember if it was someone I saw on Twitter, but they say in the first 8 game weeks, I think it was only Manchester City last year that bettered defender points in the opening 8 game weeks compared to the rest of the season. So defenses sometimes need a little bit of time to get back up to speed as a defense. But see, people will immediately just see 5 at the back and say, no 5 at the back because it's inflexible or whatever. But it's all it is you've made a decision to get a defender over midfielder. It's that is literally it. That's the
and one thing to note
move.
as well, I do have $1 million in the bank with this team as well.
So even better. So again, overall, there's a lot of high owned players in there. It's really close to Tien's team, even though he's on a 4-4-2. So both of you, I imagine, are going to take Perisic out with the pretty strong evidence that he could miss the game. Have you guys thought about sticking at that price point or going down or going up? Because Lozz, we'll start with you because you got money in the bank, so you've got more options open.
Yeah, so if that's crossing my mind at the moment, it could be Perisic, Dewsbury Hall out for Robbo and a 4.5 midfielder to fill that bench slot. So even bigger at the back, or I could even go down to a Necker Williams or a Patterson and maybe look to bolster up that midfield a little bit.
And Tien, what have you got any thoughts at the minute?
Yeah, so obviously my backline doesn't have Rhys James at the moment, and I think he's certainly a solid option. But I'll need to find that 0.5 from somewhere if I want to upgrade Perisic to James, which is certainly an option. But I do like Mount though, so I don't know. It's because if I need to upgrade to James, Mount probably need to go, or Martinelli down to a Neto, which I don't think it's a good idea. Or alternatively, is the easier option is just to downgrade to Perisic down to a 5.0 defender, so like Trippier or Cash.
Gabriel's a popular pick.
Or Gabriel, for example. Yeah, there's definitely a few good options at the 5.0, and I might just have that 0.5 in the bank in case of price rises. So
my original draft didn't have an 8 million because I don't know what it was. I just fancied Harvey Barnes. I think Leicester have been scoring a lot over pre-season. It looks like he's sometimes playing up front with Vardy as well. He's the perfect FPL player where he's greedy. He won't pass it. He'll yeah, exactly. See, she's agreeing with the Harvey Barnes pick. So you've still got time. I think people need to understand as well with where we are. It's late. It's even late. Is it 10:15 at night for you?
Correct.
So the deadline is something like 3 a.m. your time, right? So you guys have to make a decision. Unless you're going to stay up and watch the game, you need to make a decision early. It's one of the difficult things about the deadlines on this side of the planet. It's not the easiest. Just the last question I wanted to ask about this draft then was Trippier. Do you really think that he's a great player? Game week 1 fixture, absolutely fantastic. But do you think his other fixtures are actually so going off like the official Fantasy Premier League website, they have green fixture for Forest, green fixture for Brighton away, then of course Man City, Wolves away, then Liverpool, Palace. You think that is he someone just for the short term, or?
Yeah, I think he provides a lot of attacking threat, which I like in defenders. Obviously, we have. I think he'll be on set pieces, free kicks, and they were exploring playing 5 at the pack themselves with wing backs, and Trippier being able to bomb forward with a bit more freedom. So I like his upside, and at that $5 million mark, in terms of rotation risk, I thought he was a better option than some of the other sort of 5 million defenders. But the potential for an early wild card also is always in the books. Even just he's easy to downgrade. If I want to get out of that 5 at the back, I can drop him down to a 4 million defender and free up some funds if it doesn't look like things are going Newcastle's way. But they had a really good defensive uptick last year, and towards the end of the season. And I just like, obviously, first fixture, Nottingham Forest. I mean, I just love it. I think he could haul.
Yeah, I'm thinking exactly the same thing. It just the upside is so big, and yeah, you know, that first fixture there is what he's targeting. And then if, you know, you can even bench him and, you know, put in Andrews in for a nice rotation, or yeah, like, you know, that the 5 million, I don't think he would mind benching, you know, for a game or two. Yeah, it's just that upside. But if it's just like, you know, 3 out of 5 fixtures that he can play him, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah,
I'd actually prefer that. I'll prefer that over, like, you know, like a Gabriel, for example, who would, you know that will play and then will probably get some clean sheet, but then there's not too much attacking potential. I mean, it got a little bit, but yeah, probably nowhere near as what Tribute could offer.
All right, we'll just have a quick look at a Salah-less draft, one that strikes fear into the heart of many FPL managers, especially last year. So this was interesting as well because Lozz made this one. It's a 5-2-3. We're looking at price points more than just the players. This is not a Salah-less draft. I've chosen the wrong one. But just until I do that, I want you guys to think of your thoughts of going without Salah. So Tien, we'll start with you. Going without Salah.
I think it's a viable strategy, you know, as long as you know exactly what you want to do and you know the risk. And I'm all for, you know, any FPL manager to, you know, to go for it and take some risk, as long as they, you know, they know the implications of, you know, what might happen if, you know. So for example, if Salah you know, bangs a couple of goals in the first game, which, you know, is entirely possible given that his track record in game week 1, his effective ownership is going to be super high. It's going to be, you know, 150% plus is my guess. So the implication is that if he holds, then of course your rank's going to be it's going to hurt a lot, but it doesn't mean that he can't do anything about it. I mean, it's, you know, if you decide to go without Salah, then who do you put in place of him, right? So I've seen drafts that with, like, you know, KDB or Son, or, you know, 2 up front, you know, with Kane and Haaland, and that's perfectly fine, because, you know, you're betting that the alternative premium players, especially the one that you will be captaining, will outscore Salah, or at least for, you know, for the first few fixtures, and then you know, you might get out of it by, you know, have an early wildcard, for example. So as long as you know the risk, and you have a plan, what you want to do, you know, is that a long-term thing, or is that a short-term thing? What if it doesn't work? You know, what's the exit strategy? That's normally what I would, you know, when people ask me, like, you know, if they want to do something a bit risky, and I say, yeah, that's fine, if, you know, go for it. But, you know, do you have an exit strategy? Like, what are you going to do if it doesn't work? Because, you know, obviously, you know, if it doesn't work and you know, you like 2 or 3 million overall rank after game week 1, I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, there's still 37 game weeks to make up for it, but you do need a plan to, you know, to deal with that. So I think it's totally fine.
That is I guess could be. Yeah, I think with that 5 million, the things you can do with the rest of your side, you can go big at the back, you can go big at the front, and you can still have viable midfield options that have a scoring threat. So definitely a fan of this draft, and I would consider it, but I mean, it's just such a risk to do early on. And I think the exit strategy would be maybe having a blow an early wild card, or a -4 immediately, and you have to factor that into the risk. If you're trying to move a premium spot from the front line to the midfield, you're going to have a minimum of 2 transfers to do it. So if things go bad and Salah scores a hat trick in the first week, you got to add another -4 on top of that as the risk.
Yeah, just FPL Tactician Andy Martin, a popular FPL account, usually goes against the grain, and just his key argument is, I think you guys might agree that it seems like 2 premiums seems like the sweet spot for most people. And his argument was, instead of Salah plus a Spurs or City, his argument was, well, the value comes with captaincy, and he thinks in the first 5 game weeks, actually Spurs and City as captain options is stronger than Salah. So if you've got Salah for, say, the first 8 game weeks, and you're only going to captain him 4 times, you're not really getting that 13 million bang for your buck. Whereas if you go for a Kane, even if you went 2 forwards, Kane and Haaland, game week 1, you've got 5 home games, I think it is, and it's like Southampton, Bournemouth, Wolves, Newcastle, and somebody else, another promoted team, maybe Forest again or something like that. And that was just the argument that if you're not going to captain Salah, and I'm the same, I just believe personally that Fulham away, Palace at home is captainable for Salah. Even game week 3 against your boys Manchester United, Tien, you might not like it, but Salah has a good history against United, so that's a week that I'd probably captain a City player at Newcastle. But in the first opening 5 game weeks, I'm probably going to captain Salah 4 times. So he's worth it for me. But if you're sat there thinking, well, I don't think I'll captain Salah 3 out of the 5, then you've got 13 million there that isn't really working for you, because the captaincy really adds the value to the player.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I would be happy to, captaining him, 5 out of 6, or as you said. So I have no problem with that at all. And probably the other thing is, like, it may be a minor consideration, right? But he's 13, so he's the most expensive player in the game this year, and so the most expensive midfielder, obviously. And it's a lot easier to go from him to anybody else than the other way around. So, so for example, if you go with him first up and it's like, it doesn't work with Fulham, and 2 or 3 game week later, you fancy someone out, like moving to Son, for example, it's a very easy switch, or KDB for that matter. It's a very easy switch. But if you go the other way, you pick someone else and you want to go back to him, it's then, obviously it's harder, which means that, you're probably likely to be forced into an early wild card.
I have a question for you lads. If Sadio Mane was priced at 8 million, I know this is completely hypothetical, would that factor your decision in any way, the way that Diaz is?
Go on, Tien, you can take it first.
If Mane was 8, that yeah, I'll definitely take a risk with him. But I don't believe Diaz is Mane at 8. That's a problem. I think he's a good player. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think he's at the Mane level just yet.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. It's just whether that, with the new front line that Liverpool has, is Diaz, and if it's Darwin starting, is it going to be a bit of an impact on Salah's numbers as well? Like, obviously he's going to have pens, and he's going to still be Salah and having Robbo and Trent feeding him all the glorious chances that he does get. But do you think that that's going to impact his scoring opportunities as well?
There's certainly a possibility that might happen. But the thing is, we know very little at this stage. We have a couple of pre-season games, but they're not the same. So, and that come back down to how much risk you want to take, because you can have a narrative any way you like. You can paint any picture you want, because you can look at the stats. You can look at okay, well, is that the Salah of the first half of last season or the Salah after AFCON? Because if it was the Salah after AFCON, you don't want him. You don't want anywhere near him, because he wasn't very good.
Yeah, people say, like, stat wise, he was up there the same, but eye test wise, That's where
He
you
looked after
combine
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he did
looked
look
after
off
it.
it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So, and yeah, and then you're right. Like, you know, we got Darwin Núñez in like, what impact is it going to have? I mean, some people already start, you know, thinking about putting him into the draft. You know, in my mind, it's a bit too early, but who knows? You know, he might just explode, and then he may want to move off Salah to, you know, to move the money up front for him, for example. That's entirely possible. But at the end of the day, in my mind, it's a lot easier to do that than the other way around. You know, instead of taking a punt on Diaz and Darwin and whoever else, you just start safe and see what happens. And you know, and then you can react then.
Yeah, my point's the same. Like, Diaz is great, but he's not Mane. Mane had years of doing it, and he's just not quite there. He doesn't offer exactly the same threat as Mane. But I still would be looking at Robbo, Trent, and Salah as the star three. But yeah, for sure, if it was Mane, then yeah. But Diaz just isn't Mane. And I'm not saying, you know, it's, with all due respect to Diaz, he's a very, very good player, but Mane is a world-class player, and Diaz isn't yet. But he could be, giving him some time. So
It could be.
go on to what I'm doing now. So it's one of those things where you think about it all summer and then you do it at the end of pre-season and realize, well, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. So bench boosting game week 1. Looking at the team, as if they start, I'll be happy with it. But bench boost week 1. Now the thread that I did on Twitter also discussed the fact that you could still bench boost in game week 1 with a good team and not have to bench boost, not have to wildcard in game week 2. You could get back to the template by game week 3 without any hits. But if you're going to play as optimal as you can, the best way to play it would be, for example, I think no City. Okay, no City in game week 1, and then get those 3 boys in for game week 2 against Bournemouth. But I'll just run through the team, and you guys can tell me the ideas behind bench boost game week 1, wildcard game week 2, and I'll try and defend it. So I've got Mendy and James as that Chelsea double up in defence, and I've got Trent and Robbo as the double up Liverpool away to Fulham, and then Luca Dean's off to Bournemouth. I've got the Wolves duo of Podence and Neto. Now, this was Perisic and Martinelli. But obviously with Perisic being unlikely, that's the change. Salah as my captain, Kane as my vice, Wilson, who was in my draft anyway, because I think he's a talisman, and I saw somewhere that if he actually played 39 consecutive game weeks, I know 38 is in a season, but if he did 39, he'd have over 200 points. He's absolutely class if he can stay injury-free. And then Watkins, and on my bench, of course, Ward, Bailey, Almiron, and Trippier. So this is my bench boost side. Of course, you guys can see no Arsenal, because I mentioned earlier about Palace having the 5th best defense, expected goals conceded, but also in the top 7 for all the other key stats. Like I think they were 2nd for big chances conceded. I'll have to look at my own thread, but they were like, so goals conceded in general 7th, 6th for clean sheets, 5th for shots 5th for shots conceded, 5th for shots in the box, 5th for shots on target, 2nd for big chances conceded, and 5th for at best expected goals conceded. So that's why I'm not too fond of Arsenal in game week 1. And City, they're going to West Ham, so I'd rather get some Spurs boys and some Liverpool boys in there and wildcard in for game week 2. So let me know what you guys first think about the idea and then the team.
You go first, boss.
Okay. My only concern, I guess, it's a different season this year with the World Cup break, but are you happy to bank that wild card in so early? I mean, we've had a couple of years with the most uncertainty in FPL, and we hope that this year's going to be a little bit more regimented in its structure, with the World Cup in the middle of it, obviously. But with the things that can happen and injuries and suspensions, do you think that you'll be able to build a flexible enough side to get you out of any sticky situations from game week 2?
Yeah. All right, so I can go with that one. You're right. This season, because of the World Cup wildcard after game week 16, I'll only have like 14 game weeks. And if you can think to every other season, you probably will have had a 14 game week gap between wildcard 1 and wildcard 2. So Tien mentioned earlier about, I think, about splitting. A lot of the popular tactic is, 8 game week, cut your season up. So halfway, it's game week 16, we've got the Winter World Cup wildcard. You've got your wildcard, first wildcard in like game week 8. And then halfway through the second part of the season, you play your second wildcard to split it that way. I think that's too regimented. So the fact that we know we get a free wildcard 14 game weeks after when I want to play it, if I set myself up right, because all the top clubs are so well priced that when I wildcard in game week 2, I can jump on the price rises. I'll have an idea of starting 11s, and I'll just load up on the top 6 teams. I'll just get double City, double Liverpool defense, for example. I just can't see that going wrong. And the fixture run for the likes of Spurs and Liverpool and City play against anyone. Arsenal have great fixtures for a long time, and so does Spurs. So I'm not worried about sticky situations because I'll just get the best teams.
I think the thing that sticks out to me is the double Wolves midfield. Now, are you able to talk me through that? Because that, to me, is a massive trap, and I actually expect Leeds to win that game. I know we'll go into predictions later, but I have Leeds winning that game.
Okay, because one's playing down the middle and one's playing, Neto is probably the most dangerous player, and Price. Like I said, I had Martinelli and Perisic. I could still maybe take James out, but I want the double Chelsea defense because they're playing against an Everton side that's going to have Iwobi as centre mid in a midfield too, and they don't have a striker, a senior striker. And you think Leeds is going to win that? I think that's, they've got 7 players out, and they don't have Phillips protecting the back line anymore, and they don't have Rafinha creating the chances.
Yeah, but they have Paddy Bamford back, and
I don't have a Wolves defender, so I don't care. I don't care if it's 5-5. Yeah. I hope it's an absolute thriller because I don't care what Leeds do as long as Wolves score.
I like Aronson at that price point as well, the 5.5 midfielder for Leeds. If you wanted to hedge your bets there, but no, I think your reasoning behind the double Wolves is pretty clear, and double Chelsea defense against Everton is great. Did you consider moving up to a Chelsea attacker or midfielder and maybe Mount?
I don't have, because it's a bench boost, right? So you can see I've got 5 million, 5 million, 5 million on my bench. I'd have to sacrifice someone I believe in. I could do something now with the Konate being out for game week 1. I am tempted by going Robertson to Joe Matip, and using that 2 million to get a bigger hitter up the field. That is something that I could do. Robbo is just so good. The second half of the season was incredible. And just every time you watch Liverpool, it's Trent and Robbo. They're doing something. They're creating something. And I could go and try and get that clean sheet for Matip. But even if Liverpool concede, I believe Robertson or Trent will do something. And that's the key.
The lack of Arsenal players. I know you talked through it with Crystal Palace as well. Do you think that the bench boost itself can cover any potential returns that the Arsenal boys might get on you?
Well, I'm hoping
as a safety.
Yeah, I'm hoping my players will just match him because look, if Jesus scores a goal tonight, it sounds weird, right? But it's Friday night football, right? And Arsenal at night at Crystal Palace. Now, I think Crystal Palace fans are great. I think Selhurst Park is a real, cauldron where the fans feel like they are the 12th man. And even if Jesus gets 1 goal, it doesn't matter, because if my Watkins gets 1 goal, still the same amount of points. It doesn't matter. I'm just hoping that Jesus doesn't go crazy. But remember, this is just 1 week. Unless Jesus goes out there and bangs a hat trick and gets all bonus points, and remember, he's probably not going to be captained a lot. So that's not going to be as... If this was Salah getting a hat trick, highly captained, it hurts. But if Jesus, likely not captained, gets 1 goal, he's getting probably less than 10 points. And I can deal with that for 1 single game week to take the opportunity.
I can definitely relate to that, because I went without Salah last season, first game of the season, when he scored the hat trick.
I did it 2 years ago.
Yeah. I had Bruno, which covered it a bit, but I still ended up 7.5K. So it, like we say, it's game week 1. It's not gonna kill you. And I think with your strategy and you have a clear plan, I think it has great upside.
Yep, Tien, go attack.
All right, attack. Now I totally get the idea behind it. I'd seen quite a few number of people did it last year, and they did pretty well out of the first. The band was first game week as well. I do share the sentiment that it's a very, very bad chip. I hate it. I hate the band boost chip. I think saving it for a double game week, and then you gotta plan around it, or you have to delay your wildcard until closer to the double game week, so that you can use it to maximize the points for your bench. But then you sacrifice elsewhere, or in the game weeks leading it to it, or after as well, depending on how you get there. So I do totally get it, but I feel like you just do it because you want to get rid of it. And the fact that you are, because you're doing it in game week 1, and you have to wildcard in game week 2, which I'm not saying that it's a bad thing in itself, but basically you locked yourself in using 2 chips just because you want to get rid of 1, without really properly thinking about, or can the wildcard be used any better? Is there any other better way to maximize your wildcard, even though it's only the first 16 game weeks, as he said, and you probably want to use it in the first 8 anyway. But there still might be for example, I don't know, I just pick a random one, but game week 6 or game week 8 or whatever, there may be an opportunity to fix your squad, especially after the transfer window. There may be new players coming in, coming out, and whatever is happening. If you wildcard in game week 2, potentially you can be exposed and not be able to fix your squad in case of a major fire. So that just like I don't have a problem with this squad per se for the bench boost. I think potentially you could get a good point tally that can make up for some of the popular players like the Arsenal boys or whoever else. But it's just that the idea that you are locked in and basically using the 2 chips just for the sake of getting something that you don't like. Now, if you don't like the bench boost and you don't care how many points you get for it, well, then just use it wherever. Suddenly, next game week you look at the bench and say, oh, I like these players in my bench for this particular game week. I'll just activate it without thinking about, without having to plan for it. And whatever points you get, doesn't matter. If you don't care about it that much, then don't let it affect your other cheap strategy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the common thing people think is like it's getting rid of it, and I agree, it's a really overvalued chip because it's to boost your worst players maybe in a double game week. But with the 5 sub rules, I think it's more unknown this year. But like I said, I'm trying to utilize it, and the analytical people of FPL have said that the good bench boosts are done with hindsight, but the actual optimal time to play it is game week 1 with a game week 2 wildcard. So I'm just trying to sway it that way, because you're right, and like I've mentioned before, using a bench boost in game week 1 means that every single move I make focuses on my 11 for the other 37 game weeks in the season. But also, I don't have to, when people do a wild card at some point, either before it or after it, you will focus on a bench boost, which means you'll target players to bring in either using hits or bringing players that you don't really want just because they've got a double game week, just so you can bench boost. Now, if you're gonna play 15 players, but you've taken money out of your starting 11, so you've had to turn an 8 million midfielder to a 6 million midfielder and spread that 2 million on your bench just to have a good bench boost. But I would argue that I would rather have one 8 million player playing against like 2 of your 5 million midfielders, just as an example. So it's, I know the idea of just the idea that you've had is just use it anyway, but then you're definitely wasting the chip. If you're going to use your bench boost on a Pereira, Ward, who might not be playing at the time that you use the bench boost, and a non-playing 4.5 million forward, then you really have thrown away any potential that you could squeeze out of that chip. And with how competitive FPL is now, year upon year, with more content and analytics and stats that we've got access to, you're trying to squeeze every bit of potential you can. So that's why I'm leaning that way. And a lot of people, just with the inflexible argument of 5 at the back, I'm not worried about not having a wild card. If I need to take hits in game week 8 or 9, I'll take hits. But I just think when I wild card and load up on those top 4, top 6 teams, I'm not worried. I'm just not worried about it.
One thing I really like about this side as well, all the enablers that you have in there have really good fixtures. So the Newcastle boys, they've got Nottingham. The Villa boys, they've got Bournemouth. Plus your premiums have really good fixtures as well. So
that's what swayed it. That's what sold it to me. This wasn't a bench boost where, like you said, like Tien's point right about bench boost and just do it anyway. But what happens if Neco Williams is away at Liverpool and Pereira's at home to Manchester City? That was you're right, Lozz. Like that's what's not just the theoretical point, but when I made the draft and thought, yeah, you're right. When we look at the teams later on, but I've got my teams against Leeds, who I think are weak, Bournemouth, who look diabolical, Fulham, newly promoted side, Everton don't have a striker or a centre mid, and Forest at home, another newly promoted side. This felt like the time, you know.
Yeah, I do like it. The Wolves boys are the ones that just are putting me off it, to be honest.
Oh,
but
I agree. Like I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, after this stream, I'm going to go look at my bench boosting options, because you've almost turned me, I think, because it is my most hated chip, and I think it will provide clarity, peace of mind moving forward, that you can just get on with it, and have an extra week of information to really plan your team out, because you're just extending your initial deadline another week.
Well, one argument as well, where people are like, well, in the future, if you use it game week 30, you know, you've got price rises by then. But then my argument is, let's say Bailey and Almiron go crazy. Their prices, these are the lowest prices of the best players right now, because they're only going to go up because people will buy them. Yeah. So when people say, oh yeah, you know, you'll have more money by then, but these players will cost you more money to bench boost them. But if I just ask you two now, like, can you think back to previous seasons and thought, has the bench boost at any point come into your planning where you've had to take a hit, or you've had to bring in a player that maybe wasn't in your first 11 but was for your bench? Like, has the bench boost chip ever... So we'll start with you first, Lozz. Has the bench boost ever had any effect or been part of your planning, or you've just done it whenever?
I think a lot of the time when I have used it, it has been around a wild card. And again, sometimes that wild card is prior if you're using it later in the picture. Whereas I prefer what I've learned is if you're wanting to bench boost, you want to be wild carding out of it, not into it. And that's what you're doing in this scenario. So lots of positive points for it, I think. And even if it doesn't pay off, hopefully the points that you do get means that your overall rank or whatever isn't completely damaged moving forward as well.
And Tien, what about you? Is it ever delayed a wild card or a transfer or a hit or something ever affected your team?
It certainly has always affected the plan in the team, but yeah, it's just very hard to quantify it, if you know what I mean. Like, it's very hard to quantify how much damage it has done to your team, and I think that's a reason why it's very difficult for many people to think about in a sort of quantitative way. Because, you know, all they see is like, oh, you know, my bench put in the double game would give me, like, I don't know, 25 points or whatever, and it's, you know, it seems pretty decent. But if you lose, you know, 40 points along the way to get there in the preceding 5 game weeks, then obviously, you know, that's basically neutralized the benefit of bench boost. So I completely get it. I think if I remember correctly, the year where, you know, we had that long break due to COVID, you know, and then project restart, when suddenly, you know, you were given unlimited transfers for that 1 game week, and I did bench boost that game week as well for exactly this reason, where, you know, because you've got unlimited transfer, you basically you build the bench boost team straight away, and I think there could be an argument for doing the same this year with the World Cup unlimited transfer, but I don't think the fixtures are very favourable for that strategy to be viable. But the only downside of game week 1 bench boost is that there may be uncertainty about, you know, certain teams and certain players. So, for example, at the moment we don't know for sure whether Ward will actually start or not, right? You know, a lot of people think he will, but we don't know that. And if, you know, so if one player in your 15-man squad doesn't start or doesn't play at all, then of course, you know, that's I don't know, that's 25% of your bench gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that can happen.
Or
Look at
you know, so, you know,
as well. It's the same. Like when
well,
Marnie goes
yeah,
off injured.
yeah, exactly. I mean, triple captain, I don't mind because it's a pure luck chip that if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter because it doesn't affect your overall planning, your team. You just play whenever. You don't have to plan for it. The bench boost is the one that actually can potentially cause a lot of damage because of, you know, depending on how you plan for it, it can actually, you know, create a net point loss for your team overall. So,
yeah, if you've taken hits and
you know,
stuff to get there.
yeah, exactly. I totally get the idea behind doing it, you know, game week 1 bench boost. I'm just not very comfortable with it. That's all.
Yeah, that's
especially
a lot of
around, yeah.
it's the comfort with it. But I'll also argue as well that the bench boost is not as valuable this year because we've been so lucky with double and even triple game weeks the last 2 years because of COVID and Project Restart that there's just not going to be supposedly as many double game weeks this year, you know, and you got to hope that you've got a double game week where, like last year, you had Leeds. Who did Liverpool have in a double game week? Leeds and someone when Salah.
Norwich.
Yeah, Leeds and Norwich,
Norwich,
right? And
yeah.
you know that's perfect, right? But for a triple captaincy or a bench boost, well, for a triple captaincy, that's what I mean. You're weaker players. But arguably, there's going to be fewer double game weeks this year, as been mentioned by people. And I'm always playing the game in front of me. So when people say, well, what about COVID coming back? And what about postponements? I'm not going to alter my team for something that might not even happen. You know, what if an earthquake strikes and a Liverpool game gets called off? I'm not. You play the game that's in front of you, so I'm not going to worry about games getting postponed in January because of a COVID outbreak because everyone's going to suffer that, and not having a bench boost is not going to affect that situation whatsoever.
Yeah, I think you're right about the recency bias, especially with some of the massive bench boost scores that came at the end of last season because the fixtures fell so
I
favourably.
had a huge bench boost last
It's
year. It was like
yeah,
140 points or something crazy. So it's not like I'm
exactly.
against the bench boost. So when I'm using it now, like, Tien, you said about people using it last year and it worked out really well. I had someone that told me that there was 700 overall rank. But I also argue that we always have to separate what was good last year might not be good this year. So my big thing like preseason last year, when I was on the scout doing videos, was like, look, this is honestly every year people say 5 at the back, 5 at the back, but last year really was the year for 5 at the back. So I'm not saying it is, but maybe this is the year to use the bench boost in game week 1 because of that World Cup wildcard. Because you've got like a maximum of 14 weeks until you can activate. And if other people are playing their wild card in game week 5, 6, 7, 8 anyway, I'm just undercutting you in Formula 1 terms, right? I'm just getting in there quickly. But you can alter it and have a team that lasts you. Like I said, James goes to like a Kyle Walker. You can get 2. I can do Robertson to Cancelo, James to Kyle Walker, so I've got 2 City players, and next week just do Kane to Haaland or start with Haaland. You know, if people are looking at a bench boost in game week 1, you don't have to wildcard in game week 2. You can have still a really good team to get you to game week 5, 6, 7, 8, or whenever you want to wildcard. It's just I'm trying to play it the most optimal way, and I definitely want triple Man City for Bournemouth because that could be huge.
With the information of Pep's lineup as well.
Having the first game week, yeah. So is it Foden ready yet? Because he didn't really have preseason because he didn't go on tour. You know, if Foden starts the game, then when I wildcard in game week 2, I'll bring Foden in. I don't think many people will be able to do that. They'll have Cancelo and have Haaland.
Yeah, Bernardo transfer rumours. What does it do to the team if he's not there? How does Phillips and Rodri go together? Do they play as a pivot? All these questions will start to get answered as we move forward and provide you with those options for City for sure.
All right, cool. So let's have a look at the opening fixtures. So we'll start. We'll do it in order. It's on the screen if you guys don't have it or you don't see them. So of course tonight, Palace, Arsenal. I've already given my opinions on this about, you know, Jesus is so highly owned. Palace have a really good defense. I know you guys are getting, for example, Jesus and Gabriel and Martinelli and Saka, whatever. You guys are getting it for the long term, right? So if I was not doing this bench boost wildcard, I too would be easy triple Arsenal because they've got a huge, great run of green fixtures. But just for this game week, what are your thoughts for Palace Arsenal? Lozz, you want to kick off?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can guess what I'm hoping for, but in terms of what I think will actually, I have it as a score draw. So I have that maybe a 1-1 is most likely in my books. I think Palace under Vieira have looked really good, especially in the big occasions. They showed against City last year that they can play against those high possession-based teams, come away with results, be very disciplined, and provide a threat on the counter that is almost unmatched at times with Wilf Zaha. He has had a great preseason as well. And I'm not huge on Arsenal defence as much as everybody else is at the moment, especially for this fixture, maybe moving forward. But yeah, I have it as a score draw, 1-1.
Do you know Man City and Palace was the only team in both fixtures to not let Man City score?
Yeah.
And they beat Arsenal and Spurs and City last year.
Don't remind me.
So, Tien, what are your thoughts, Palace Arsenal? You think it's going to be a walkover? You think it's going to be tight?
I don't think it will be a walkover. I think it's going to be a tough game for Arsenal. And I think, you know, we know what happened last year with Arsenal opening game. Right? They actually lost to Brentford. So, but I still probably slightly leaning towards them having maybe a 2-1 win.
Yeah,
probably
2-1 Arsenal.
Yep.
I'll take these low scoring ones as long as it's not Jesus banging him in. I'll live to fight.
It's probably Scott Bryce. I tell you that. Let's be upfront.
No, it's gonna be Xhaka And Ramsdale with a fluke goal from like a free kick or something like that. Yeah, I think this is going to be tight. I could see this being a 1-1 as well. Palace have a history, I think, of scoring really late goals against Arsenal too. So Arsenal have had a great preseason. I know a lot of people say, don't look too much into preseason, but they've looked good, and they've not played, they've not been playing League 2 sides or Spanish third division teams. They've been playing some quality oppositions. Like Chelsea was a strong 11, and they absolutely destroyed them. Maybe that's because of Chelsea's own problems more than Arsenal being great, but some really good results there for
Severe
Arsenal.
fixture as well.
So
They
Fulham, Liverpool. So Tien, you want to start off on this one? Think about this.
I think it's got to be a 3-0 to Liverpool. I can't see anything else.
Diaz hat trick. No,
that would just
no,
absolutely
no Diaz.
roll everyone.
No Diaz.
Twitter
hat trick.
meltdown.
Yeah, no Diaz. Yeah, nah. I think Salah's gonna do well as he always does in opening fixture, and yeah, and I have Tien and Robbo as well. So hopefully an assist or some sort of goal involvement each. That'll be nice, and a clean sheet. So yeah, I'm banging on that.
Yep. Lozz, you thinking that as well? Lopsided 3-0?
Yeah, I had 3-0 written down as well. So, but Craven Cottage, they'll be buzzing to be back up in the big time. So it could be tougher than people are expecting, but I'm not one of them. I'm expecting it to be a pretty big walkover.
Yeah, they are. People always think about Norwich, but Fulham are the yo-yo team. Like the team that literally goes up and down like every year. So I'm also at 3-0, and this is just because Liverpool had a tough opener against Man City, so they've already got like a competitive game under their belt. Fulham, yes, they do well in the Championship. Mitrovic gets record-breaking things, but I'm just not feeling Fulham. And Liverpool are so good. They're going to be challenging for the title. I think 3-0 is fine. So Bournemouth, Villa. Lozz, you want to start on this one?
Yep. I had Villa 2-0 victory. Could be more. It'll just be interesting to see how they go. They've had a decent preseason with some good hit outs against like obviously other Premier League opposition over here in Australia. But yeah, I just can't see Bournemouth getting something out of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, Tim?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Bournemouth is what is it like? Did they say that they're like 5 or 6 players short or something, and they're not ready for the season? What they said the other day, and yeah, so I don't think they can hold off. I think Villa will probably get a 2-0 win as well.
Well, they
Bailey will be involved.
I'm hoping so. Scott Parker himself came out and said we're in a worse situation now than we were when we got promoted, and they came up through the playoffs, right? So when you've got the third team coming up and they're weaker than they were, and you look at the backline, the suggested backline here is Hill, Metham, and Kelly. One of them signed from a lower league club and played like a minute of football. It's not good. Scott Parker did okay at Fulham and he's done well bringing Bournemouth back up, but this is not a Premier League side. Like you look at this lineup, you probably only know about 3 or 4 of the names that you've ever seen before. I think this could be. It depends if Villa come out and get the killer instinct, and Gerrard has got that winning mentality where it doesn't matter if it's 1-0 or it doesn't matter if it's 5-0. He wants performance to stay at a certain level. So I think even if it's 2-0, I don't think it'll be foot off the gas. I think this could be like a 3 or 4-0, unless Bournemouth come out and surprise us.
It's one of the interesting points. I've seen a lot of drafts, and I know he's at about 17% ownership, but Coutinho, I haven't seen him around. So it must be the casuals that are the ones who are engaging in Coutinho at this stage. But he could have a big one here, I reckon.
Yeah, I was looking at him for my game week 1, but I went for Watkins because then I wouldn't be having I'd have a lower striker. So I'm fine with the 7.5 Watkins because it's a forward. But if I went Coutinho at 7 million, my third forward would be considerably weaker. So I didn't fancy going that way. But yeah, I think that's just simple. Leeds Wolves, I think we're going to have contrasting views here. So, Lozz, you want to go and defend Leeds first before we go to Tien?
Yeah, our American Patriot friends. I think they'll be able to actually nick a result here. 2-1 is my prediction. I think Bamford's going to get in the goals as well. I love him as a player, and he had a bad year last year with injuries. Has had a decent full preseason, and I think they'll be ready to go.
And what score do you think it's going to be?
2-1.
2-1 Leeds. Okay. Tien, what are you thinking?
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna break your heart, Rob, but I think it's gonna be a 1-0 to Leeds.
Really? Okay, go on. Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like Wolves is gonna struggle to score goals. I mean, with like Podence leading the line potentially. I mean, I don't know. I just don't have trust in them scoring.
A key difference though is last year when they played more defenders, played like the 3 at the back with wing backs. They're going to a 4 at the back now, which means that they've got that extra person in attack. So it's not the same Wolves lineup or shape as it was last year, where they were very light up front because they didn't have that extra attacker. But now they're going for 4 at the back. They're playing a 4-3-3. They do have that one extra man in the box, which is what the Wolves, Talking Wolves is a Wolves YouTube channel. That's what they assessed over preseason. But they don't have a left back. They don't have the centre back. They don't have the defensive midfielder because he's gone to Man City. They brought in Adams. They don't have Rafinha to create anything. I'm just curious as to, they've got 7 people out. Dan James is banned. No Cooper captain. No Luke Ayling. Why are you guys? You just feeling it? You just think that those losses aren't that important for Leeds?
The players that you just rattled off there, Phillips is the only one that I would ever rate. The others, and Rafinha, obviously.
Rafinha.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Rafinha as well. But I think that they'll still be able to create a couple chances, and they have the number 9 that I think will be able to put the goal in the net, the ball in the net, get those goals.
But 1-0, really? You think a clean sheet for this Leeds side?
I think, I think they're just gonna play very defensively, and then just have that one counter where Bamford will just nick it, and yeah, that's what I've basically just feeling. There's not much.
Yeah,
you can record this next week. Yeah, you can have this as a recording. Tag us both.
I think it's going to be 3-1. I think there's going to be 2-1. Wolves aren't exactly the best at scoring goals at the best of times. I know. Like I said, I know I'm double Wolves at the minute. I think Neto will stay. I'll have a think about what I can do with Podence, but out of position player. He's playing down the middle. They both look good preseason. And again, they play some difficult side. A good win. Raul Jimenez isn't great, but from what people saw, they played against Sporting and did really well and looking up to score more goals. So I just think that the Leeds losing Phillips and Rafinha is huge. Defensively, down the spine, creatively. But also having these 7 players out, playing like Struijk maybe at left back, new player Christensen at right back from the Austrian Bundesliga, and then having like Koch and Llorente as your centre half. I don't rate Llorente as the best of times, even though he's in this like Spanish squad, but like having Koch next to him, talking about Bamford, but a lot of the Leeds players, it's like the legs are made of paper mache. Like the injury problems that they have at that club is ridiculous. And Wolves are looking hungry. They're looking more aggressive. And yeah, I just think Wolves are. They finished, I think, 10th still last season. I know they're a bit of a damp squib for a lot of the time, but they weren't a pushover. They did have a decent season, you know, top 10 side. So Newcastle Forest. Tien, we'll kick off with you.
I think Newcastle's gonna have a walkover. You know, it's probably a 2-0 for me, I think.
Key player in the game, do you think?
You're probably gonna like it because I think Wilson's gonna do well.
Yeah, good. Correct answer.
Yeah,
Good.
Wilson's gonna do well, and I think, you know, it's defensively as well. I'm banking like maybe a clean sheet for Trippier and maybe a free kick. You know, who knows? So yeah, I think it's gonna be an easy win for them.
Yeah, Lozz.
Got it as a 2-0 as well. I think Tien's reading my notes, but yeah, I think in terms of a key player, Sven Botman, who they've signed, is a big. He's a centre back that a lot of the bigger clubs looked at as well, and I think he'll really solidify that back line. Kraft, the Swedish fella, he was also very good at in patches last year, especially in that run they had defensively. So I'm feeling a clean sheet for Newcastle. Nick Pope, he's an unbelievable goalkeeper as well. He just seems to have the longest arms in the league. So yeah, 2-0. I think Trippier free kick, hopefully, and Wilson probably with the other.
Yeah, it feels like I'm saying a lot of 3-0s. Maybe I'm just hoping for an opening day bit of excitement. But, you know, I think Forest have made like the most signings. So, you know, they've not even played together properly yet. I think Lingard's had one preseason game after spending most of the season not kicking a football. You look at the defense, they've got Cook, who used to be at Bournemouth, McKenna, Worrell, got Willie. They might attack down the fullbacks with Toffolo and Williams, but you know, Colback, O'Brien, and Lingard in the middle. The strikers aren't particularly sticking out to me. Like, yeah, Newcastle have strengthened. Botman is a fitness worry at the minute, but again, that's still fine because if he doesn't play, like Dan Burn will probably come in and establish centre back, good quality aerial threat at. Like, what is he, like 8 foot? You know, is it
probably better for Trippier?
Even better for Trippier, yeah. So yeah, I'm 3-0. I just think Newcastle have looked. The fans, you know, it's at Newcastle, so St James's Park is going to be absolutely bouncing. There's so much optimism. There's such passionate fans. They're going to be absolutely bouncing off the walls. Probably going to be sold out. Going to be flags everywhere. They're going to be really pumped up. So I could see, unless again Forest adapt, unless these newly promoted sides adapt from day one, I think all three of them could be getting smacked like 3 goals a piece kind of thing.
The one player that I want to have a look at is Brennan Johnson, the striker from Nottingham. He looked a quality player last year, and he's been priced out. I think they overpriced him. I think he's at 6.5, and that's just too much for a Nottingham side. But I am still interested to see how he goes.
Yeah, I know a lot of us have got Williams on our bench because he's a 4 million playing option, but I'd never start the season with newly promoted sides. I just don't. Maybe one time ever, I might have started with a goalkeeper to try and get save points, and they had good fixtures, but just not worth it. Okay. And then Spurs Southampton. So this has got people thinking about the Kane and Haaland debate. So Lozz, you want to start with your boys, Tottenham Hotspur?
At home, I fancy us to get the win. Maybe I'm being greedy, but I thought 3-0. I just think we'll come out firing. The thing that could let us down is the wing back options. But in saying that, both of the players that are most predicted to start at the moment featured heavily for us last year when we were having our good run in as well. So I think if you are considering a wild card week 2 and you know the lineups, Sessegnon and Emerson may be a good option as well, if they're set to start, because they're pretty much just playing as wingers at the moment. And yeah, 3-0.
No bias there. 3-0.
No
Easy
bias,
win. We're winning
no
the
bias.
league, winning the Champions League, winning the FA Cup, winning the League Cup,
Yeah.
winning the Community Shield, even though we're not in it.
You've got your jersey on, mate. You're an honorary member tonight.
I am. Tien, what are you thinking? Spurs, South. Are we going to see a repeat?
I'd-
Four goals, Son,
Uh,
Kane involvements.
No, I think I just gonna try to dampen the spirit a little bit here, and then just go for a 1-0, because I think there's just because I don't own any Spur attacks.
There's bias both ways here.
It's probably more hope than anything, but I'm just hoping that Kane and Salah will stay good.
Yeah, last year I think you opened up with a home defeat against Everton, right? So it just depends. Like, again, Southampton have changed a lot of their starting 11 as well. The defense doesn't look good, but we all know the best way to play against Spurs is the low block. Don't let Kane and Son and probably Kulusevski, don't let them in behind. But I'm looking at the predicted lineup of like Valerie, maybe Bednarik or Bella Botchap and Salisu, Lavia Ward-Prowse in the middle. Like, looks like they're playing 3 at the back with wing backs. Even with a low block, they might not have the ability to keep out the Spurs side. But I know Roma, high quality side, Jose Mourinho, quality manager, ex-Spurs as well, so he knows the ins and outs of the team. But that was the issue. They played the low block against Spurs, and Spurs, didn't even sort of register anything, and they didn't score. They got beat 1-0. So if they can hold them off, if they play the low block and just sit back, we know that's a problem. And the biggest problem with Spurs is creativity. You have nothing in the middle of the park. You've got probably Bentancur and Højbjerg. Eriksen was just crying out to be the one player that you signed in the middle of the park to open up those balls over to Kane, Kulu, and Son. And it's just easy. Nullify the wing backs, mark Son and Kane, and you're not going to get anything creative from the middle of the park. That's the big worry for me in Spurs. If you've got a strong spine and cover your wing backs, I think you're all right against Spurs. But I see this as a 2 or let's go 3-0. I'm going a lot of 3-0s. They look sharp. Conte now full preseason under his belt. He's got his stamp on the side. Some good additions if Perisic plays. But yeah, I'm going to lean that way, I think. 3-0 Spurs. I've already alluded. I'll kick off Everton Chelsea because I already alluded to it. Everton, Iwobi in the middle in the midfield 2, not even in midfield 3. No senior striker, so maybe Dele Alli plays as the false 9. McNeil or Gray. McNeil gets thrown straight in, or they play Gray and Gordon on the wings. Attacking, it's like a dull blade. It's not even a blade. It's just like a dull spoon, that kind of attack. I know Chelsea have problems, but Azpilicueta now, that's done. He's signed a 2-year deal, so there's no more worries about him going. So Reece James likely back to right wing back. Maybe Alonso or Chilwell on the left. Koulibaly comes in. Probably Thiago Silva as well. Mendy, I think, defensively solid. So that's why I'm backing their defense. Attacking over preseason with Chelsea has been an issue, people have pointed out. But as preseason went on, they looked a lot better. Sterling now added to the attack instead of Timo Werner. So I'm thinking this is a 2-0 Chelsea. But Tien, you want to start? You think Everton, Chelsea? What were your thoughts on that?
You make me having a James FOMO now, Rob. Yeah. the way they describe Everton is like they're going to be in trouble, are they? So
Do you want to? Their predicted lineup
yeah,
is Pickford, Godfrey, Mina, Tarkowski, Patterson, Doucouré, Iwobi, Milenko, Gray, Ali, Gordon.
yeah.
Where is the goals
I
coming
can't
from?
see
Where
how they
is the
score.
goals coming from in here?
Yeah.
Reece James
Can't
against
see where they can.
Milenko and Tarkowski. Now, didn't Tarkowski play in the same defence that Reece James destroyed last season against Burnley?
Mm. Yeah, it's hard to argue, hey? Yeah, it's probably going to be a 2-0 for Chelsea. Yeah, which means that I'll probably need to get James in somehow.
But you've got Mount.
Yes.
You've got Mount. So, like I said, defensively, they're going to be great.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, I'm going to go to Chelsea.
Yeah, I had 1-0 written down, but after hearing that lineup, my God, Iwobi, that's just that'll do me.
I don't rate him at
I'll
the
look-
best of times, but central midfielder with Doucouré.
I'd almost prefer them to play Delhi as a deeper midfielder than Iwobi, and just probably not have Iwobi at all. Have Gray as the out and out striker and McNeil and Gordon in the wider areas, but that would be a more appealing lineup for me. But I don't follow enough.
Yeah, he wants to play three at the back. I really don't rate Lampard as well as a tactician or as a manager. So it's not like it's a savvy manager who might pull a trick out of the book with all of his experience, like Ralph Hasenhüttl. I would say his name wrong, but the Southampton manager. At times he pulls out a good bit of play. But with Lampard, I just don't rate him. I really don't as a manager, and I think he could play 4 at the back here, 4-5-1, and have like Doucouré as a cover defensive midfielder. But it goes out with Iwobi in a midfield 4 or a midfield 2 because it's wing backs. They should murder them, surely.
Yeah. I think Chelsea will get that one. At least get the result. The scoreline could be the point of contention there.
All right, cool. Leicester Brentford. Quiet people on these assets. So Tien, you wanna kick off? What are you feeling about Leicester and Brentford?
Haven't looked too much into them, but yeah, and then they're pretty under the radar, right? I think people were kind of hot on Raya to start with, but I think it's just gone a lot cooler now. I just can't see how they can keep a clean sheet against Leicester, unfortunately. Can they nick a goal? I think they possibly can. So I'll probably say 2-1 to Leicester.
Yeah, if it's a set piece,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, could possibly, a set piece. And
yeah,
they're
Palace and
pretty
Leicester.
horrendous there. Right, so.
Palace Leicester are awful at defending set pieces. But yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Brentford, you're right. It was Raya a lot of people were looking at. The loss of Eriksen as that creativity in the middle. I think they're going to get is it Darmstadt?
From Sampdoria.
Yeah, but not yet, right? If they're going to play this weekend, he's not there yet, which is what we're looking at. And just for Leicester, I said earlier, Barnes was in my squad. I just really think he could start the season hot. I know a lot of people are worried about Leicester, but when I look at fixtures, I don't look at it as a whole fixture. I look at defense and attack. And yeah, Leicester are probably going to concede a lot of goals over the first sort of 5 game weeks, but I think they can score quite a few as well, especially in this first game. Harvey Barnes has been banging them in. They're all fit. They're the only team, I think, in the top flight of all like the top levels to not make a signing, but that just means that they're bedded in. They don't have to get used to any new players.
Do you have their predicted lineup there?
Yeah, I'll get it. It's like just And with Brentford, I think they could end up with second season syndrome. You know, they could struggle this season. I think, and it's a home game for Leicester as well. I think this one's going to be like a 3-1 Leicester. But I also just love the full. I know Ricardo Pereira's got injured again, but I think just like all the options at 4.5 million for Leicester, if they're all fit, it's a good team. And those wing backs like Castagna, Pereira when he's fit, James Justin, they're really attacking. They're really good options, but definitely a wait and see, I think, for those ones. But they're predicting Ward, Castagna, Fofana, Evans, Justin. So that was a big issue last season. Fofana was out for a long time. He's their star centre back, really highly rated at Leicester. You know, Chelsea's going to have to pay 80 million plus for him. And Evans is the stalwart centre half there, and he was out for a lot of last season. They're all fully fit. It's a good team when they're fit. Justin at left back, Tielemans and Didi, Dewsbury Hall, Maddison, Vardy, Barnes. Like that strike force, Maddison, Vardy, Barnes. Again, similar to what I said about Wolves and Leeds. I don't care if the scoreline's high. Like I can see Leicester conceding, but I can see him getting 2 or 3 goals in a lot of game weeks because that is, and you got Daka and Iniacho on the bench to come off Vardy when he's tired. Like that is, unless Maddison goes to Newcastle, that is a top quality front line in my opinion. Maybe you guys disagree or not. So Lozz, what are you thinking about Leicester Brentford?
Yeah, no, I agree. I've got Leicester winning that game 2-1. I did have Brentford getting a goal. I think you could be right on the attacking threat maybe lacking without the creative midfielder, but Ivan Toney is constantly a threat, set pieces, things like that. So I think I can see them nicking a goal there against Leicester's suspect defending on the set pieces. But yeah, one player I really like from Leicester is Keenan Dewsbury Hall, and I haven't seen him around a lot. He's under 1% owned, and he looks like he's going to be starting in a free role to go forward from midfield with players like Ndidi behind him and a back three and wing backs. And I have him. If Bailey didn't have Bournemouth this week, I'd probably be going him for the long term over him. But yeah, I have a 2-1 victory for Leicester.
I agree. I think he's a quality player, and I think the only question mark here is Yuri Tielemans potentially on the move, maybe to Arsenal or another club. But so because in preseason the last 2 first team fixtures, Tielemans was left out. He came on as a sub. I think it was for Pereira when he got the injury. But it does look like he's being given more of a license. He had a good preseason as well. He's obviously in that starting 11 now after his debut season last season for 5 million. You know, feeding a ball through to one of those attackers, I think. 5 million sitting on your bench. Bring him in. So say you've got Trippier and Dewsbury Hall, right? You know, game week 3, you don't want to play Trippier. I don't think it's terrible to be throwing in Dewsbury Hall for those kind of game weeks, you know. So I think it'll be pretty good. United, Brighton. Tien, we'll start with you because this is your team, United. How are you feeling? Good about Martial? Feeling hopeful under Ten Hag?
Oh, he's out. He's injured. So yeah, I don't know what Ten Hag's gonna do. Is he gonna play Ronaldo? I'm not too sure. So yeah, not feeling great actually. Just hoping for 1-0 win. You know what? But to be honest, though, we can't keep clean sheets either. Like we just concede against anyone. So yeah, it's gonna be a 2-1. I think he's going to concede. I think anyone going for the United defense, yeah, you probably need to rethink that. I don't think we can keep clean sheets, to be honest.
People have been thinking that Rashford's going to play out of position as a striker, which he hasn't done for a long time. I personally think that he's just going to throw Ronaldo in there. Who do you think's going to start up front there down the middle for United now? Bruno as a false 9? I don't see it.
I don't think so. I think Rashford hasn't been very good whenever he's up front anyway. So yeah, I don't know. Has Tien done his first time? He must have. But yeah, I have a feeling that he might just stick Ronaldo in, see how that goes. So yeah, just too much uncertainty at the moment. How's he going to line up? And Sancho has been ill as well. So even if he's back, is he's 100%? I don't know.
Not being in training
Yeah,
pictures and stuff as well. And Sancho was your
it's
brightest
yeah,
player over pre-season. He looked really sharp.
exactly. Yeah, that's the issue. Like Alanga just such a massive downgrade from him. So yeah, to be honest, I'm not feeling very confident. So I'm just hoping for like a 2-1 win.
Yeah, Lozz, what are you feeling? United Brighton.
I have it as a 1-1 draw. I'm interested to see the tactical battle between Ten Hag and Graham Potter, because both high-level tacticians and like to adjust to opposition. So it could be one where they kind of just nullify each other. United really still trying to figure out their system. Who's starting at centre back? Is it going to be Lissandro next to Maguire? Who's going to be up front? Has it got enough sort of, I don't know, strike force to get a couple of goals there? I'm not sure. I'm thinking 1-1, probably from a set piece, because that's where they have quality. They've got Ericsson and Fernandez now, and obviously Slabhead got his big head in the box. So I think maybe a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, not worried about. I know you both got Man United to concede, which you're right. You concede against like literally everyone. But Brighton missing out on Basuma. So not feeling too hopeful still against Brighton, and I don't see goals from Brighton. We usually don't see goals from Brighton. We usually see a good defense from them. But Cucurella going, Basuma going. You don't think that opens up more goals for United, or are you still just worried about Sancho's sickness and Ronaldo coming in not fully fit?
Yeah, I think this. I think Graham Potter is a very good manager. I think Brighton play like a system, rather than certain players. So I think he's going to do. I think he's going to be able to get whoever, and still make it a good team defensively, at least. As far as United is concerned, as I said, like we managed to concede against anyone. Like Melbourne Victory score first. So if Melbourne Victory can score against them, then, and it was like a full strength squad, not like a B team or anything. It was, so yeah, I'm just not very optimistic about the defense at the moment. Yeah, and it could just be like a very scrappy, corner like at the very, last minute.
Dunk header, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like just like it could happen at any time. Like just not very, very assured at the back at all.
No, not still.
And
You
and
got
as Lozz
Maguire,
said, like
Lindelof.
you don't even know who's going to be the first choice in a centre back pair at the moment, because we've got 4 or 5 to choose from. And so yeah, it's going to start.
Good old optimism there for United fan. So finishing off then, West Ham, Man City. A lot of people, yeah, we said earlier about Kane against Haaland, but West Ham, City, Lozz, how you feeling about this one?
Actually, I have this one as a 2-2 draw. I think West Ham will come out firing. To be honest, they've done some decent business in the summer. I think they've added a little bit more depth where they were missing it, and that's where the wheels really started to fall off last year, when they were starting to stretch their squad out as the year wore on. Started off really well during the season. Antonio and was it Ben Rama were absolutely killing it, and I think could be similar here. With Moyes will obviously have a little bit of forward planning ready for the fixture. And if you're going to be prepared for Man City at all, you probably want it to be the first fixture of the season. Like last season, Spurs were lucky enough to have them on the first day under Nuno, and we got the 1-0 victory over them then. So if you're going to get City, I think first day is a good opportunity to strike and get a result out of them.
Yeah, West Ham did well against them last year. I was 2-2, I think, last year when City were trying to clinch the title and City pulled it back. And I don't know, maybe Liverpool were just so good, but I felt City haven't been at their best yet. They've had some players not with them in pre-season or on tour. They've got Laporte out, Stones with like no pre-season minutes at all, Foden with the under-23s. Mahrez looks like he can't be bothered. So maybe the best time to sort of play City is now when things are a little bit rusty. But I don't know really if West Ham have improved. I know the centre-back they've signed is injured, and the striker they've signed is too late, I think, to get into that starting 11. But similar to what we said about Leicester, it's the core team. You know, they've played together. Moyes has got a system. He's got them ticking. So I still think... I think West Ham will score, but I still think City's going to end up winning it like 2-1. So I'm going to lean towards City. But if we're looking at players, who's going to get the goals and who's going to do it, that's always the question mark with City. The points get spread. Haaland can go out there and score both goals, or he scores none, and we have a Kevin De Bruyne assist to a Mahrez goal, or a Diaz corner headed in kind of thing. So difficult to know who gets the points for City until we see him, which again, Game Week 2 wildcard, that'll give me the Community Shield and Game Week 1 to have a look at those City assets and then bring 3 of them in, because I don't know, Cancelo didn't look great in preseason, didn't have a particularly great Community Shield. So maybe, we past bias of, Trent, Robbo, Cancelo, they are the best. I think Cancelo will still be fantastic, but if I can go out there and get Walker for 5 million, if I just want the clean sheets, do like Walker, Edison, and Haaland, or I actually fancy going Edison to get the clean sheets and go Foden and Haaland and get on their attack for a bit of risky play. That might be it. But I'm going to go 2-1 City on this one. Tien, your rivals City against the Hammers, what are you feeling?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's going to be a 2-1 to City. I think West Ham can score, but I think Pep is going to want a reaction from the Community Shield. So I have a good feeling that having Haaland in my team, I think he will score. I think he will get it underway, and then everyone will be panicking and try to scramble to get him in. Again week 2, again Bournemouth. So 2-1, yeah. Probably Haaland score 1.
Okay, so just the last couple of questions then before we leave it. So the first one is game week 1 differentials. Who money no option. So I think Callum Wilson's a really, really strong one for game week 1 against Forest. I said earlier about, if he stays fit, he is a top quality striker. It's the talisman, he's on penalties. So I think for game week 1, I'd be going for Callum Wilson as my standout differential. You guys can, whoever's got an idea first, who would be your game week 1 differential option? Under 10% or under 15%, or not one of them, not Salah or something like that.
I have a feeling that it could be Raheem Sterling
against that
terrible
Everton side.
Yeah. So then that just like can't get past that terrible Everton lineup. 6.8% on at the moment, it seems. So it's a 10 million price tag. It's a little bit tricky. But if you're on a bench boost and you've got a wild card next game week, then perhaps you can think about that.
Yeah.
Go against Salah, anyone?
Yeah, no, definitely not. Absolutely not. Lozz, you got an idea? Game week 1 differential?
I touched on him before, but Keen and Dewsbury Hall or one of the other. I mean, I'm not sure about the percentages of the Leicester attack as well, but against Brentford, I could see a return there, and I don't think they're in people's long-term thinking. So as a differential for this week, yeah, maybe a Vardy or a Barnes, Keen and Dewsbury Hall. One of those
they're
three.
low. They're definitely like
Yeah.
Barnes. I had him and he's like under 2% or I think under 4%. I think Vardy's even less than that because people looking at Kane, Haaland, Jesus. Everyone else below that is a differential really as a forward, but I think they're good options. Other question is teams to target. So for the first, let's say 8 game weeks, if we're going to cut the season into quarters, I think we can agree the newly promoted sides are teams that you're probably going to target. We do that every year, but no one's. It's not like a big team's gone down and come back up. So I think we can agree. Maybe you don't about the 3 promoted sides, and then we can just move on to the more established teams.
Happy, yeah. I'd be targeting all 3 of them.
Yep. So
I think so. Yeah.
So if we just say 2, so if we make it 5, 3 promoted sides. I know you guys disagree, but I think Leeds. I think the loss of the creativity of Rafinha, the loss of the solidity down the middle from Calvin Phillips. He was out a lot last. So 2 seasons ago, Leeds did really well, and then last season, Phillips was injured a lot, and Leeds were terrible. I think that's a connection, and with so many injuries, and I don't think the players have brought in particularly great. I think Leeds are really going to struggle this year, and my second one would be Everton because I don't rate Lampard as a manager. Calvert-Lewin's out, I think, for six game weeks. So if we're doing the first 8 game weeks, they're not going to have a striker. They might be playing Rondon every week. Coleman's out, so they're playing 4 million Patterson at wing back. And they've signed 2 relegated players in McNeil and Tarkowski, which doesn't breed a lot of confidence for me personally. So they would be my 2 teams that I would be potentially targeting, I think. Tien, 2 teams for you who you think you might be looking to attack in the first 8 game weeks or until your first wild card.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you about Everton. I don't think Frank Lampard is a very good manager, and I think a lot of people's already betting money on him. Being the first manager to get sacked. So yeah, the second team. Probably go Southampton for now. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that would have been a close one for me as well. Any reason why you're picking? What is it about them?
I don't know. I just feel like there's something about the way they've been playing under. What's the coach name again?
Hasenhüttl.
Hasenhüttl. Yeah, it's yeah. There's just like that security at the back. I just feel like they would just concede a lot of goals.
I hope so.
Yeah, for this weekend. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm just creating FOMO for myself now without
No
Kane or
Spurs
Son.
attackers. Yeah, I love how you've literally said Southampton are your team to target.
I know.
And you spent the other time saying, yeah, Spurs will maybe win 1-0 or 0-0, but
yes, that was pure hope more than anything. I just had nothing to back.
Yeah, and
Oh dear, yes.
Lozz, your 2 teams then?
Yeah, well, I'd agree with everyone that's been mentioned so far. I think they're all teams that look susceptible at the moment, especially at the back. But maybe one that I'd just mention that not someone to really target, but not to be afraid of the fixture is United at this stage. I just wouldn't be rushing to get assets out because they're going to be playing United at the moment until we see how they go. So just if you see United on the horizon, I don't think you need to be overly cautious at this stage. But Ten Hag could completely prove me wrong, and they they could be playing some beautiful football by the time next week comes around. But yeah, I just don't think you should be worried about them on the fixture list if they're a red or a just grayed out fixture.
Yeah, they're always like a red fixture. So basically, you're
Yeah.
saying like it's not a red, it's a gray. And if you're at home to
Yeah.
them, you could argue it could be a green. Or new manager, new system. We know the back room, the dressing room issues that McTominay and previously Lingard has said. Ronaldo's itching to get his contract cancelled. Martial's injured. Sancho's sick. They've got Liverpool game week 3. So if Liverpool, you're not, Tien, you might agree or disagree, but United fans are pretty, feels like they're quick at times to jump on players and managers back. So if you go to game week 3 and you've not won both of those games and Liverpool batter you, your rivals smash you at Old Trafford again, I don't think it's going to be improving anytime soon if that's the case. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but
I just think that we are, we had like our worst season last year. Even though some other season we put some pretty big players and this season we've lost 5 or 6 players, and we haven't really bought anyone in that are to replace the midfield, for example. And now we got even more injuries concerned. So the squad is definitely in a much worse position than we were at the start of last season. So yeah, and if we don't get any good results in the first 2 games, and you're definitely not in a very good state to face Liverpool. That's for sure.
yeah, the De Jong thing, you've been signing him since like the end of last season, and the money that he's on, and
yeah.
I'm not going to get into the whole ridiculous Barcelona situation, but the fact that United could end up, it feels like the negotiators of Manchester United are terrible. It's like Barcelona are like, well, we owe him 19 million, and United like, okay, we'll pay, and De Jong's like, I want 500 grand a week, and United's like, yeah, we'll pay. It's like, that's why you've got that culture of mercenary players that don't play for the badge, because they just walk in, do some dabs, go on Instagram and just be like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna go stream on Twitch, and then just sod off and don't care. Like, it doesn't feel like you've got players that truly care about your football club. Like De Gea, I think, is being great. Maguire tries, he's the captain, but his quality is not there. But McTominay is the one who, maybe his quality is lacking, but he's the one who feels like he's in dismay at Manchester United's situation right now. But all the other players, maybe Rashford, he's been there a long time, but like Ronaldo's there to win stuff. And because you're not in the Champions League, cancel my contract, I want to go. I want to leave. Your star striker, who I don't even want to suggest how much money he's on a week. Yeah, I think that's a huge issue. I think you've got so many overpaid players at the club that there's just a horrible atmosphere that has been documented and leaked to the press about issues with coaching, but the players with themselves, it's just, I think Pogba going is one of the best things that's going to happen to you guys, because it just didn't add anything. Flaked out, got injured when it wasn't going his way, and just never. He left United originally to go to Juventus because he didn't care. He doesn't care about Manchester United. Not bothered.
Yeah, so I mean, Ten Hag is a very good coach, so I do have some hope there, and it really depends on how he's gonna line up this first few games, because
he's strict as well, right? He's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna accept it.
Exactly.
Other managers are Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Can you imagine Solskjaer coming in going, hey, we're bigger than you. We're the football club. Get out. Like Ronaldo, he said, like, leave. Fine. I'm not going to play you. I'm going to play Martial. You're not ready. Why are you not coming back? Go. This is Manchester United. That's what you need. You need that teacher manager, not your friendly manager where they'll come in an hour late and just be like, yeah, I've just been out with my mates kind of thing. Like, no, I think Ten Hag is the right appointment. It's just that cycle of United fans of like, blame the manager, blame the players, blame the board, sack the manager, and then repeat. Just stick with Ten Hag and get rid of your players. I think that would be my final rant.
I'm interested to see Ten Hag's relationship with the media as well, especially if things don't go well, because he has been, he comes across as cold and disciplined, and all it takes is one article from The Athletic or something put out there that something's not quite right, and like we said, the United fans can really jump on it with their passion. And if that happens, that's why I just think it's a wait and see with them. But I'm just not worried about coming up against them on the fixture list at the moment.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there then, guys. I think that was great. This is the first time I've actually had guests on. I wanted this season, if I'm going back to streaming, I wanted to bring people on. I wanted to discuss it, not just me blabbering on to everyone. And I like having other insights and other styles of play. And for me, rank and follow account doesn't matter. It's just your plan, and like me starting with a different kind of plan this season. So it's really great to have you on. So I really appreciate that, guys. Hopefully in the future,
thanks for having us.
If in the future, I'd love to get more people on. I've got space for 3 in my overlay you can see here. So, but yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming on. Hope to do things like this more this season. Any last thoughts or stuff before you say goodbye?
Couple of
just want to say thank you, and thanks for having me on. It's been a great chat, and I think give me something to think about in the next hour or so. It's the FOMO is real, and saying that Southampton is the team to target, and not having Spurs or Everton is in a bad shape. We don't have any Chelsea, but yeah, so definitely something to think about. I think the dilemma for us and Lozz, you probably know it too well, whether to have some sleep or not. It's coming up midnight our time, and still was it deadline ends about 3 and a bit hours or something. So yeah, but yeah, thanks. It's been a great chat. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.